Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Savannah Park, which is a board game released in 2021 for 1 to 4 players, takes around 20 to 40 minutes to play. This one is designed by two of my favourite designers, Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling, and this one certainly falls into that family weight bracket of games, which is pretty much accessible to anybody. But before I get into the actual review, I just want to give a quick mention to kienda.co.uk, where you can pick up great games such as Savannah Park, and if you use discount code Kienda5 at the checkout, then you can get a £5 discount on any order of £40 plus. So I've set up a player's board here where you just have basically this grid of these hexes, and all these tiles with these animals on have been randomly allocated onto the board, adhering to certain restrictions, i.e. you cannot place on top of these trees, at least during the setup. You cannot ever place on top of these burning forests. And you can never place on top of that center rock either. And as you can see, all these different tiles have different animals on them. So you've got some tiles that have maybe 1, 2, or 3 of a specific animal. You've got ones that have multiple animals on them. And you also see that some of these tiles have watering holes on them. And that's going to be one of the main ways you score points in this game, because the idea is you want to be grouping these animals or individual animals as closely as you can together, because the scoring is going to be your biggest group of those animals, i.e. every individual animal in that group, multiplied by the number of watering holes in that group. So as I said, you want to be puzzling things out, but you also want to be considering certain things as well, because if you ever have the exact number of animals next to these forest fires, then they're going to be eliminated from scoring at the end of the game. So if I had, say, two rhinos next to this 2 forest flame at the end, that tile is going to be removed from the game and not score and not contribute to your ultimate scoring. So the other players doesn't really matter, because this is kind of a multiplayer solitaire game where you're not really overly worried about what other people are doing, but that's kind of semi-true, because other people will be choosing what tiles you move on their turn. Additionally, you've got this scoring track in the center here, which is just going to record your points and also walk you through the scoring process at the end of the game. Additionally, at the end of the game, any revealed grass like this or any revealed tree is going to give you a certain amount of points. So every tree at the end is going to give you 3 points, and every grass at the end is going to give you a single point. So let's walk through a few turns about how this game actually plays in practice. So all you're going to do on your turn is you're going to pick one of these tiles that have yet to be flipped over, and you're going to move them to an available spot on the board. So for example, I might say, let's pick these 3 rhinos here. What I'll do is I'll take that tile, I'll flip it over to the reverse side, and then I'll place it somewhere else on the board. Again, you cannot cover up the bushfires and you cannot cover the rock in the center, so maybe I'll put it down here like so. And then it would go on to the next player, and then they would choose their tile. But whenever you choose a tile, the other players also have to select that tile. So sometimes they can make you move things that you're not quite ready to move yet. But let's say it got back round to me and I would want to maybe move, and let's say I'll move this ostrich up here like so, again flipping it over, and then I might want to get another group of rhinos to go into this new empty space here. So again, let's take a look at this big one here. There you go, move it here. Always trying to keep my animals away from these bushfires if they have that matching amount of animals. So again, I don't really want this bunch of these eye boxes here, because if they do, they're going to be removed from the board at the end because they're next to 3 fires. But that's not always a bad thing, because as you can probably tell, if I had a single animal, let's just say I put this elephant here, maybe next to this spawn at the end of the game. Yes, it's going to be removed because it's next to 1 bushfire, but it's going to reveal the tree under it, which is not a bad thing, because trees are worth 3 points rather than the 1 that this particular elephant is going to give me. So you've got to kind of consider these things when you're placing. And of course, as I said, as the game goes on, more space is going to be emptied and more things are going to shift around. So it's kind of like one of those sliding puzzles, but a multifaceted version of that, where you've got a lot of things going on at once. But let's progress the game somewhat, and I'll show you what the end game scoring looks like. Okay, so the end of the game is going to look something like this. Once all your tiles have been flipped over, then it's time to commence scoring. And then you're going to go through this little process here, where first off, you're going to start with the bushfire. So let's start with the number 1 bushfires. So I'm going to have a look around this bushfire, and any tile around it with a single animal on it is going to be removed. So as you can see here, we've got this ostrich that's going to be removed from the game and not contribute towards scoring. Then you're going to go to the second one. So again, 2 bushfires. Therefore, this double giraffe tile is going to be removed from the board, so I obviously haven't puzzled things out as well as I would have hoped. And then you're going to go to the 3 and remove any 3 tiles, which unfortunately I've got rid of a very strong tile there, which I didn't really want to do. But despite that might sounding like quite an easy restriction to abide by, it's actually quite tricky because sometimes these little things can slip your mind because you're considering so many other things. And then once that's done, you're going to go on to the grass tile, again getting a point for every single exposed grass. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 grass tiles revealed, so that'll give me 4 points. And then you're going to look at the trees. So I've got 1 tree, I've got 2 trees revealed, so that would be another 6 points. So that'll take me up to 10. And then methodically, you're going to go through all the animals and work out what you've got in your biggest cluster of groups. So as you can see here, my biggest group of giraffes sits around here, where I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 giraffes and 1 watering hole. So 5 times 1 is going to be 5 points, which will advance be 5 on the track. Then you're going to go to the elephants. You can see my biggest group of elephants here sits around here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's 1, 2 watering holes. So that's 14 points because 2 times 7 is 14. And as you can see what I did there, you can actually trace the animals through tiles that have other animals on them. So even though this one does have one of these eye boxes on them, you can actually go through that because it does have at least 1 elephant on there. And then again, you're going to go through all the animals, and whoever's got the most points at the end of the game is going to be the winner. But of course, you can play solo if you want to, or just try to beat your own high score. There are other variations of the game as well, but on the reverse side of these boards, you've got a kind of a blank canvas where you can choose to put your own little setup and configuration of bush tiles and trees on them, just to give yourself a bit of variation. So as you can see from the little run through there, that this game is rather simple, at least mechanically. However, the puzzle aspect of the game does really shine through strongly as you're trying to map things out carefully, trying to get these groups together and trying to use these big multifaceted tiles, like we've got all the animals on in the watering holes, to their biggest advantage in those sweet spots where you can group all those animals together and keep those chains going. And that is a really difficult thing because often you are kind of relinquishing control of the tiles that you're going to move when it's another player's turn. And of course, you can only ever place tiles where there is an empty space. So sometimes you are not ready for another player to call out a certain tile because you just haven't got the ideal spot to put that tile in. And that is really where the fun of this game comes through. It really is a kind of an optimization puzzle where, is this the right place to do this? Is this the right time to do it? I need to make sure that I'm flexible by having these gaps in so that when somebody calls that big, powerful, maybe, 3 animal tile, I have the space to put it in there just as a contingency plan. And of course, you only have so much control because there are only so many empty spaces in the first place. So as I said at the beginning, this really is kind of a multi-layered sliding puzzle. And despite this one being such an easy or such a simple set of rules, that actual fun aspect of that puzzle does come through really strongly, and it feels like classic. It feels like an older design, which is quite surprising that a design this simple has actually come out in 2021, for the first time. The extra decisions as well, such as the bushfires, is interesting because, as I said, you can actually make very simple rookie mistakes by leaving animals next to them, which can sometimes break up your chains and therefore lose you a lot of points. But as I said, you can actually use them tactically as well by, if you've got a rogue tile that isn't really going to connect to your chain, then if you put them next to these ones here, then sometimes you can reveal it and get the trees or grass underneath, which can just give you those few extra points to give you the leg up of your opponent. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on here. Loads of plates spinning at the same time and trying to keep all the animals chained together as well as trying to avoid those bushfires taking them out. Savannah Park does only take around 20 to 40 minutes to play, and that for me is the real sweet spot. There's quite a lot going on here, and you're certainly not going to lose any engagement in a timestamp of that length because you are so engrossed in your little puzzle. So yeah, it certainly doesn't outstay its welcome, and particularly as a solo game or a 2-player game, you can get through this really quickly, like rapid quickly, which I think is fantastic. So if you've got that, it's basically like a filler plus game. It's not going to take an hour. You're going to comfortably get this done in 45 minutes or less, regardless of that player count. And even at any of that player count, the game does work wonderfully, but it is a slightly different puzzle, because the more players there are in the game, the less control you have. And you might think, oh, that might make the game a bit more chaotic. And yes, it does, but not in a bad way, because it just makes the puzzle a bit more hard to wrap your head around, and it just means you have to work with what you've got. The replayability of Savannah Park is okay. I mean, it is a tactical puzzle, so you are always reacting to the current board state. So yeah, you're not going to get a ton of variation in the actual overall experience. But again, you are reacting to what you have, and that can be different depending on the game it is. You know, new gaps are going to come up, the different setup is going to be different each time because they are randomly allocated onto the board. And as I said, you can actually choose to flip the boards over and give yourself your own unique puzzle to work out, just to give yourself that extra kick and give it a little bit more life. Additionally, there are some very small modules that you can add into the game which comes with it, such as these lion tokens, where you can put these on a board, and whenever you fill up that spot, you get the animal points equal to the animals you put on it, and then you shift it around just to kind of trickle the points and get more kind of points as the game develops rather than all at the end. I don't think it's completely necessary, but if you want to add it in, it's not going to hurt the game. And there are also some variants in terms of being child friendly and things like that. So it's a nice diverse style game that is going to cater to a lot of people, and you can play this at different levels. You know, really thinky gamers who want to min-max their turns are going to get stuff out of this, but also you can completely play this casually with even children, and they're going to enjoy it as well. Aesthetically, I like the way this game looks. It's very simple and muted in its design, but I do like these kind of semi-realistic cartoon drawing outs of animals with these black lines. They really do pop off the board, and it's very clear to see what all the animals are with little confusion. I like the fact that it has taken that muted design because it's just so much easier just to look at a glance and move things around. And of course, the symbology and things is so simple, and it's a very simple method to calculating your points and things. So again, I think this is a design that's going to be very friendly to all different types of people playing this game. The actual production itself is pretty damn good as well. I mean, the tile quality is certainly up to scratch, and they're not going to be bending or anything anytime soon. The meeples that come with the game are nice. You've got these kind of explorer meeples, you've got the lions, and you've got the meerkats as well, which are quite a useful tool because if you pick up a tile, you can just put this one in its place to show that's where you picked it up from, just to avoid confusion on where you're going to put things down, because sometimes you'll pick a tile off the board and forget where it came from, and then you end up putting it back to actually where you picked it up from, which is of course an illegal move. But I'm really happy with the production, particularly with these little boxes here. So the actual box comes with basically these little boxes here, which is going to have all your player pieces in them, so that you can quickly set up and give one each out to each player, and that just slots directly into the box just for a rapidly quick setup. So yeah, production and aesthetics, I'm very happy with this one. So overall, I think that Savannah Park is a lovely game. It's a lot of fun to play, extremely simple rule set, which again you can teach to pretty much anybody, but doing one at the game is not as easy as it looks, and mapping things out, making sure you have those gaps and just sliding things around in the right spots at the right time is a real joyful experience. It can be frustrating at times, but in a good way, and it's one of those games you can just sit back, relax, and just enjoy the experience, whether it goes wrong or right. So I think this is a really wonderful family weight game, which I'd strongly recommend if you do play with younger children or just want a 30-minute experience, which is just to sit back, relax, maybe to play in an evening as your single game, and when you don't feel like something too thinky, but you still want something just to give yourself a bit of bite and something to concentrate on, then I think this is a really good option to take. So I think this is such a clean and crisp design. Again, no rules bloat whatsoever. You can't misinterpret the rules, but it has just enough going on to keep players engaged. So I wouldn't really expect anything less from Kramer and Kiesling. They really are masters of design, and this is just another stamp, or another string to their bow of a really great, classic, long-lasting design. So would recommend this one. This one's going to get my shield of quality. Just a lovely game that's going to stay in my collection for some time. That is Savannah Park. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you found it useful or at least somewhat entertaining, then please hit like and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Additionally, if you wish to support the show, because I am a one-man operation and I don't get any support from publishers, then please consider backing on Patreon at patreon.com/chairman of the board, where you can back for as little as £2 per month. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.